Hey, it's Nicole. Welcome back to the show. So excited to have you and to introduce you to today's guest, Alex Levin. He's the co-founder and CEO at Regal.io, and he leads the go-to-market teams. Prior to Regal, he has a pretty impressive background, folks. Not only did he receive his BA from Harvard, he's from New York. Impressive enough. That's a busy place to navigate for sure. But he also was one of the early employees at Angie and Thomson Reuters too. I'm so excited for you to hear some of the stories that he has to share. He's even hinted that he has entrepreneurship in his family background too. So let's get into it. Hey, if you're an entrepreneur who usually fast forwards intros just like this one, this is the podcast for you. Hey, just a reminder, our show is brought to you by Smart Cookie Media, where we believe data tells a story, and not just any story, your business story. As a subscriber to the show or as a client, you'll get insights on profitable, data-driven marketing strategies that work for you and your business, your industry. Not some cookie cutter trends, no. Ideas that are led by your customer data so you know they'll work for you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram to learn more. Everything's in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the show. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
I'd like to start the way we do with every single guest. How would you finish this sentence? You know you're an entrepreneur
when you're ready to go back into the pain. When I hire execs and, when I talk to entrepreneurs, we're looking for people who have been through early stage companies and are just crazy enough to want to go back and do it. Some people just like it. My hope and I like it. We like that environment where every day you come in and things are uncertain and you're not sure if it's going to work out, and every rock you overturn is a new opportunity. And we like that sort of building phase. It's not for everybody though. And if it's not for you, perfectly fine. There's lots of other jobs, but you have to like that to be honest.
We've had a guest on in the past that said being comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's what it is.
Yeah, it is. So tell us a little bit about Regal. What is it? What is it solving out in the world?
Yeah, sure. So our background, as you said, we were at a company called Angie that is the largest home services provider, insurance provider in the world. And we had a 3,000 person team that talked with customers. And the reason we had this digital business is that we found that if customers only came to the site, they often didn't buy these more complex, more expensive services. And if we could get them on the phone, we built trust and they would feel comfortable then making that purchase of home improvements or fence or whatever it may be. The challenge with those teams was there wasn't really software designed for these large scale, high velocity sales teams. There's lots of B2B software for relatively low velocity motion and lots of customer service software built for actually deflecting the customers and not talking to them. So we started Regal on the premise that as everyone shopped online, they'd expect to do these other things like healthcare and education and lending and local services online. And these businesses would still need to talk with their customers. And that's such a critical part of the onboarding. And so we wanted to provide that connective tissue. We wanted to be the software that would allow them to identify who's engaging with the brand, what are they doing, all these different touch points, when should they reach out, what method, what should the agents do next. The clip that I often use is we want them to treat millions of customers like 1 in a million. Even though, you're at internet scale and there's so many customers, you can't get on the phone with them and go, I'm going to treat you the same as the person who was on last, right? You got to be able to understand their context and what they want and treat them like an individual who is special to the brand so that they engage with the brand and become a lifetime customer.
So you're making these really big companies more human.
Yeah. We do thought adding human touch in a more digital world, personal touch in a more digital world. My wife's friend growing up was an insurance agent and she's great. She sat in the office, people came in, she knew your kids, your pets. Over the last, couple of years, what's happened is for business has shifted. Consumer demand has shifted online. So instead of somebody walking in her door, somebody now goes online, her computer goes ding, doesn't know who you are, what's going on, who else has talked to you. She picks up her cell phone and tries to get you on the phone and it doesn't go so well. So that's who we're helping. These brands that sell critical services that are more complicated, that need to have that salesperson, but need to find a new way to manage that engagement with the customer.
So good. So good.
It gets really dangerous probably, Alex, with these more regulated industries, medicine, healthcare, insurance, mortgage, law. And I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I love what it's doing. It's just my brain kind of goes on this weird split path of, oh my gosh, it sounds crazy, but what is AI saying out there? Is it giving out medical advice, legal advice? It's just one of those things where as a lawyer, there's other
Is it keeping lawyers employed? That's what you want.
Take healthcare as a good example of what's happened. So 2 massive trends in healthcare. One, which is a little bit what I was talking about before, is healthcare's moved online. People are expecting telemedicine, they're expecting some kind of interface online. They want to interact with the website. In addition to the physical sort of presence, you need to have that digital presence. So
Mhm.
but the companies need to figure out how to like aggregate all that customer data in one place so that they can even start doing smart things. Most of these brands, that data is going many different places. And they have no idea that you told somebody online one thing and in person another, and that's problematic. So one sort of piece is that we are HIPAA compliant, but we actually can give them a unified customer profile. I'm not just talking about health history. I'm talking about, did they tell you that they don't like talking on Wednesdays? Do you have somebody who prefers texting rather than calling? Is this a customer that you need to make sure that their significant other also knows what's going on? Or is it an elderly parent where you have to call the kid as well? Talk about all this other information about that customer that is going to guide how you interact with them. So one is that transition. The other transition is there's an explosion in healthcare data, partly because of wearables, partly because people now just test themselves on everything. And there's actually not enough doctors and nurses for them to actually go through this. So we, as an example, serve a company that has a diabetes regimen, if you want to call it that, to help people who are diabetic. And when they were doing it before us, they would try to have nurses like going through all this stuff that is being produced and decide who to talk to, not to talk to. Plus, technology is great at that. So we can now ingest all the information that's being taken in terms of the testing people are doing of themselves. And depending on the levels that the nurse is setting for the patient, you can proactively have the nurse call that person and say, you need to go to a hospital right now. That nurse could never do that on her own, but with technology, it becomes a simple thing. Or talk about follow-up. Somebody might forget accidentally to follow up with a specific action in the old world where it was legal, depending on what happened and the outcome of that first meeting, you can automate the follow-up and make sure that goes on. You automate follow-up to multiple people, even up to families. So the technology is not replacing, we talk about AI, but it's not replacing people. It's there in terms of how do we raise the level of everybody who's operating and give them these tools to do a better job.
Okay. So like for me, I know there's people who are in insurance who listen to the show. Give me an example about your wife's friend. Like, how is Regal.io helping like an insurance industry, especially when you're talking about like her friend who's just the everyday shop down the street, as opposed to the big brand like State Farm or something itself?
Yeah, to be fair, she works for State Farm.
Oh, okay.
We don't sell to mom and pop individuals. We sell in insurance to three different types of groups. So we do sell to organizations like State Farm where they're sort of more of a franchise model. And so like work with headquarters to understand generally what they want and then sell to each franchise and make sure that they have their own instance of Regal. So that's one version of it. We sell to traditional large insurers like AAA, the customer where they've centralized their functions and they sort of need our systems across thousands of agents. And then we sell to more modern, insurers like an Ethos or a Kin that are these new online providers where they have created a better digital experience, but they've realized that they need to still have that human touch to move people through. They're very tech forward and very interested in how to use this technology to provide an experience online that the old providers can't create yet because they don't have the same level of data and understanding of the customer. But yeah, in all cases, we're hooking into their customer systems of what are they doing on the website? What are you doing on the app? What customer service interactions are there? Feeding those into a unified customer profile and then creating called journeys that we sort of have to engage the customer at key moments. So let's say a critical moment is you're thinking about getting life insurance and, the price goes up when you turn 40. Well, they should be reaching out to you before you get to 40 to make sure you're getting into it before the price goes up and explaining to you why this is a critical moment. That's very simple again with technology, but it's not commonly done when it's individual agents. The data and they forget to do it. They call once, but then they don't follow up.
They rely on the paper printed postcard and hope you saw it.
None of this stuff is mind-bogglingly unexpected. So when you think about email marketing, 20, 30 years ago, we started personalization email marketing and it got much better. Bringing that same level of personalization to something that was previously either just like spam, they just hit you as many times as possible, or it was counting on an individual to do the right thing, which put a lot of pressure on the individual. It was hard for them to be efficient at scale.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
And so it's triggering, like in the nurse example, it's triggering her to make the call.
Yeah, call, send SMSs, we email integrated into Regal as well. We can integrate orchestration to other systems, like people do send direct mail, send other systems.
Okay, so let's get into your story. Tell me what led you to entrepreneurship by and large. Like, how did you know that'd be your life's work?
My father has a small business. He has these steel service centers where they buy steel abroad and then they process it and sell it in the United States. And I think seeing that at the dinner table, good and bad, ups and downs, a hard business, definitely was opening us to like that journey and potential to be an entrepreneur, let's just say. After school, I worked for different technology companies. I think, always had in the back of my mind that it's a possibility. When I became an exec at companies, it became clear to me that I didn't want to go to yet another company where somebody else would dictate how things were done. I thought that I was disagreed with the, CEO I worked for, but at the end of the day, it was not mine. And so I think my close friend Rebecca and I really wanted to, have a place where it could be in our image rather than somebody else's image. And, we enjoy the complexity or that craziness early stage. So we wanted that as well. I think when we think about what we want for employees, two things largely, one is we want to build a company that is something special and different. And I think we've raised venture capital to be able to go and do that and innovate in a space. And it's not every entrepreneur's journey to necessarily do something that's different, but ours is that. And we raise outside capital to do it. And the other is we want there to be good financial outcomes for employees if we have a good financial outcome for the business. So, if we're able to go and turn this into a big company and sell it, we want employees to also get the upside. So that's sort of some of the trade people make when they come to an early stage company is they're saying, hey, maybe I'll take a little less salary, but I want a bigger job. I want opportunity to move up in my career faster. And if there's an outcome, I want a piece of that outcome.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. We talk with a lot of people that are managing more than one thing or have a lot on their plate all the time. And that's certainly who's listening too. So would you tell me about a time that you were distracted in either your current business or maybe even one of those others that you were an early employee that maybe even led you to where you are now? How did you manage that?
Yeah. I mean, I'll start by saying when I hire people, I like actually if they have, side projects. Not that
Do
they're
you? Do you? I love
not,
hearing that.
Uh-huh.
That's
it's not
awesome.
instead of their like day-to-day job. I don't let them like at their job doing.
Yes, right. Of course. Of
But like,
course.
there was somebody who worked for me, for instance. I love this story. When he was younger, he used to go to the Nintendo store in New York and they'd sell stuff online. So he'd go and buy the stuff in the store, put it on eBay and sell it at like a 4x markup. I love people with that hustle, desire to go and experiment and try it. It's a learning opportunity for them, another whole set of skills that they may not develop otherwise inside of our business. So in general, I like that. For myself, I think when you're working for other people, it's fine to have sort of like small side projects. When we're sort of going out and building a company, especially when we're raising other people's money, it's important that this is 100% of our focus. So like my co-founder and I do not have like side projects. The closest to a side project today, we do invest. We took our own money. We put it back into early stage startups. In terms of like times where I've been like truly distracted, as you come into like an age where you have young kids, it's an age where it's very good for your work, but very hard because you have to manage the personal commitments and family as well as the work commitments. Doing that alongside other things in life is hard. So I don't believe you can do everything. Like I know some people say, oh, do it all. It's great. The advice I usually give people, if you're going to be an entrepreneur and certainly if you're an early employee at a small company, you can do the company and maybe one other thing. That's it. So like choose the company and if you don't have a family, maybe a side project or choose the company and your family or choose the company and friends. That's it. You got to drop everything else. It's a trade that you make and don't have as much time for other things in my life than the company and family. That's it.
You said you have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. What, 1.5? Yes.
Mhm.
So you're right there in the thick of it.
It's not every day we have a co-founder. You keep referencing your partner, your co-founder. I got to know, without going too much into it, is it yin and yang? Do you guys complement each other? Do you butt heads? Is there struggle sometimes?
All the
It sounds like
above.
all the above. It sounds like you guys have a great relationship. What's it like having a partner?
I couldn't do it without her. So I know I have the CEO title, but she and I are 50-50 and equally make decisions. I've been in startups with solo founders and in startups with 5 founders. Like 5 founders, like herding cats, bad idea. Solo founders, I think it's hard on them, it's emotionally taxing. It's a roller coaster. If you don't have anybody to turn to, you're going to have a worse out. So sure, doing it with a co-founder, you give away some equity or revenue of the business. I get it, but there's real value there. So I highly suggest having somebody you're doing it with. The one thing people don't understand is they assume every co-founder relationship has to be of equals, like Rebecca and I. It doesn't. I have friends that have very successful founding relationships where there's a very big difference in roles. One may own 90% and one may own 10%. That's the financial outcome based on the contributions to the business perhaps, but that doesn't mean it's not valuable to have that person there and give them full access to everything and treat them like an equal in every way and make sure that you guys are going through this journey together. So even if you believe you want to be a solo entrepreneur, I would really think about like, how do you bring somebody into the business that you can completely be open kimono with, even if they're more junior or even if they don't have the same financial incentive in the business.
I like that you referenced roles, responsibilities, understanding that there's a correlation to that, or maybe investment of time and whatnot. What about like your guys' day-to-day type of roles and responsibilities?
We worked together for like 6-7 years before this to start with. So we've known each other a long time. Don't go to like Reddit and like look for a
Good point.
we have a mixer, like, go do other projects with them.
I'm still interviewing Matt after 19 years on whether we, can have a project outside of the podcast.
Spend time with them because you don't want to get a year into it and then find something out. Our backgrounds look similar on paper. Both of us went to liberal arts undergrad, banking, consulting, went to tech startups, eventually obviously worked together and then started this company. Her skill set lends itself much more to product engineering. So she's the co-founder and CTO, and I run the go-to-market teams. My skill set is more commercial. In that way, there's sort of clear delineation of what we're responsible for. It actually allows us, the company, to move much faster. I don't know how companies do it where everything has to go through the CEO. It's impossible. We don't need to look over each other's shoulders. I know the things that are important to her, I'll stop and ask her opinion. And I know the things she doesn't care about, I can go make the decision to move on. It's a very empowering way of working when you have that kind of relationship. Sometimes people ask me, how do they find that? Well, it's mostly people you work with. So if you want to start a company at some point, like go places where there are going to be other people that want to start companies, go to other startups, meet the best, most talented people, see if you're compatible, spend time together. And maybe you will end up starting a business together, but it's hard to force. So you're going to do it immediately.
Right. That's good. Go to places where they're at. Don't think they're already in your circle of friends. I've known other people who've said, oh, well, I'm just going to bring in this person because I have money or something like that. That's always the most terrible reason right off the bat to bring in a co-founder. That's called an investor. That is not your business partner. And sometimes
another mistake people make is, obviously I come from the privileged position of having raised money already. So like take this as a grain of salt, but there's plenty of money out there. There are plenty of people who want to invest in entrepreneurs. More than ever, people have gotten wise that there's interesting businesses at every scale. And so there's no capital available, even if you're a tiny business. There's equity, there's debt, there's other new structured instruments. Mm-hmm. So access to capital should no longer be a limiting factor. You have to know how to raise money, but shouldn't be it. So I think like bringing somebody onto your point only for their money is not a good situation. Like you want to be finding the person who's going to help you at the early stages, solve problems, and figure out what you don't know, and keep lowering the uncertainty involved in the business. Now you have a good partnership, and you can find money where you need to. Definitely, there's a decision to be made relatively early. Like in our business, we were cash flow positive the first year. We could have kept running business without raising venture. In the end, we saw the opportunity in front of us and decided that it was big enough that we wanted to start accelerating our spending more than we made, which required us to go raise money. Chose to raise equity as opposed to debt because it was a venture rather than sort of growth stage. I was talking with a VC the other day that defines venture investing as one where the unit economics don't work yet or proved yet, and growth investing, it's been proven. So this is truly venture. I think as you get bigger and it becomes more certain, or you have a smaller business, it becomes more certain, it's easier to go and raise debt of some kind, a loan of some kind. But I definitely wouldn't do it that early otherwise. That allowed us to accelerate our growth. We grew from literally nothing to now a pretty large company in 2.5 years. Ultimately, we have to pay those investors back at some point. There's a real cost to it, but I think in our case, it's very accretive to have that capital.
So you're not raising currently, right? You're not in a... Okay.
No, we're lucky. I come from a background where we were running B2C businesses and I ran the P&L. It was hard for me to predict what was happening next month. Consumers, you don't know if we're going to buy next month or not.
It's true.
Now in a SaaS business, I can predict our revenue for the next 6 months really accurately. And so from a forecasting perspective, that's awesome. And it allows us to be much more aggressive in what we're doing. And then from a margin perspective, there's much higher margins in SaaS. So I am definitely a convert. Like I believe these like SaaS type subscription businesses are phenomenal businesses to be in compared to the direct to consumer businesses that are hard to predict.
Right. And well, you're also business to business, which changes a few things as well. They're thinking a little differently too.
Yeah, I'm not against like the consumer companies that are subscription. I think like consumer business is nice. You don't have to ask for permission as much, right? You can just sell it. Somebody comes to your site or whatever and they buy a thing. In B2B businesses, like we have to go to biggest corporations in the world and say, please buy our product. And like it goes through, all these make a decision and then somebody sends it to procurement and then there's legal, like you have to go through all these gates. So yes, like the contract size is bigger because you're going after larger enterprises, but I'm not convinced that that's the ideal place to be. I think like storage, my co-founder and one of her friends, they were at business school, they won their like business plan competition for some storage businesses. So my co-founder took her money, went to Japan on a trip. Her partner in that competition took it and went and bought storage and literally built the largest storage company in his town and just sold it now to one of the big players for a large sum of money. Storage is a phenomenal business because of the subscription economics.
Right.
I just want to point out real quick that when he was talking about some of the struggles, he went through all those issues and he slipped in there and legal too.
I heard it legal.
He slipped in and legal too.
I
And I'm
love
like,
lawyers. I have nothing against lawyers.
okay.
We keep Matt around for some of the lawyer jokes.
It's just another part of the process you have to learn how to handle smoothly. It's definitely possible to do legal well or badly. In my last company, we had a direct consumer business at Angi, but we also sold through partners, through the big retailers. So Walmart was one of our partners. We were told at the beginning it would take 2 to 3 years to get the service in every Walmart store. So we were helping them sell like TV installations, handyman service, and we got it in every store in 3 months. So
Wow.
look, if you believe the narrative that you're given and it's going to take 3 years, sure, it'll take 3 years, but break it down and figure out what are the pieces that you have to go through. Who do you have to get over the line to go and do it? You can move mountains really fast, even with the world's biggest company.
Yeah.
Wow. Great
Incredible.
story.
Hey there, busy movers and shakers. I get it. You're out there conquering the business world, hustling day in, day out. Well, guess what? We've got something to amplify your efforts, something that's about to make your entrepreneurial journey even more exciting. Introducing our podcast production services, your ticket to sharing your knowledge and stories without breaking a sweat. We know your time is gold. That's why our team of podcast pros will take the reins, handle all of the behind the scenes stuff. From brainstorming fun topics, introducing you to incredible guests, polishing up those episodes, repurposing your content so you can share among lots of platforms. We're here to turn your ideas into a podcast that's as easygoing as your favorite chat over coffee. Imagine establishing your expertise and your authority, making connections all across the globe in just minutes a month. And the fun doesn't end there. Our data-savvy approach gives you insights that will help you fine-tune your content and connect with your audience even better than before. So join forces with a crew that's as enthusiastic about your podcast as you are about your business. The Smart Cookie Media crew. Let your voice resonate, your stories inspire, and your ideas spread like wildfire. Level up your personal brand through the magic of podcasting, whether you choose audio only or video too. Are you ready to dive into podcasting? Your journey to share your knowledge starts right here because it's your voice, your podcast with our expertise. Smart Cookie Media, turning your stories into conversations. So the idea for Regal, let me just ask. So certainly it was birthed somewhere before. Was it at Angie? So you just kept seeing like this just gnawing away at like, wow, nobody's solving this yet?
Yeah, both Rebecca and I have worked for different companies helping sell products online. The first generation of those companies were all retail, clothing, CDs, groceries. And the like MO was, how do you get the human out of it? How do you put a pretty picture with a price that buy now? That's it. And like, that was kind of the idea. We were hired by the CEO of this company in the home services space. And originally we thought productize the service, bring it all online. And quickly we realized that when you just had the product, lots of people came online, but they did buy, or they bought at a much lower rate than historically they did when they walked into somebody's office. But we had a conversation with them, all of a sudden first rate went back up. And so we started like trying to create that conversation. So these were never cold calls. It was somebody who'd come in and say, I want a fence installation. We'd call them and say, you got a house, you want a fence, tell us more. They would tell us about what they wanted for the fence, why they wanted it, what their concern was. And lo and behold, they built trust with us. We solved their concerns, they would buy. Because, they were looking at this tiny little device trying to make a decision on our website. It didn't matter how many iterations of our onboarding flow online we did. It was never going to get the conversion rate where we wanted. We had to have that conversation. And, some people wanted on text, some people wanted on phone, some people wanted email. Some people it was like a 2-minute thing. Some people it took months. So we noticed at Angie, And we were struggling to figure out technology to enable this thing we wanted to do. There were lots of technology out there that allowed us to call people 800 million times. And you all experience this one way or another. You go to some sites, they now call you 18 times. One, it just was a waste of calls where people weren't answering. But two, is a terrible experience for the customer where they were getting bombarded by calls. So what we wanted to do is do in sales what we had done in marketing. In marketing, we were very careful. We knew so much about the customer. So we were talking to them one-on-one, not just treating them like everybody. And the technology didn't exist for sales teams. And so Regal came out of, we wanted to treat millions of customers like 1 in a million. So what we built is a system that allows us to ingest all this customer behavior, websites and support and different interactions, even what's happening in the conversation in real time. And then create these customer journeys based on a customer who leaves for a while, comes back and clicks on an email and shows interest. We'll call them. They're looking at an email that's about SoFi and they get a call from SoFi and they answer. Our average answer rate is like 30, 35%. It's not a hard sell. I see you're struggling. You want to refinance your student loan. Tell me what's blocking you. And, the customer converts at higher level. So in SoFi's case, I think we drove answer rate up 66%, on-call conversion up 5 to 10%, value of the customer up 10 or 20%. So not only are more customers converting, but they're actually converting to be better customer, more valuable customer when you have this conversation.
Are these customer journeys that you're developing for specific industries, are they proprietary to Regal or are they proprietary to the initial, we'll say, client of yours? In other words, like, could you take that same methodology of that customer journey and the sales process that you're developing for them and take that to the local community bank and sell them essentially the same customer journey, but done so from their lingo or their products and services? Is that something that you guys do?
So we don't sell like what one customer does to another.
No, I know that part.
Customer data is theirs. A lot of learnings that we've had over time. So, things like, should you text or call somebody first, or, times of day that are best, or types of messages that work in certain situations. And so based on anonymous data, we try to extract what we can and make sure we're helping all of our customers. There definitely is a bit of an arms race in this sort of stuff in that, this is a weird example, but there's a lot of companies that buy and sell gold online now. And a couple of them started working with us. And all of a sudden their results got much better. And then their competition goes, shoot, if I don't get Regal, I'm at a disadvantage because I'm not getting that answer. I'm not getting that on-call conversion. If they don't have access to that tooling, they're going to lose. Imagine like Google Ads comes out and you don't start using Google Ads. Like, you're going to be at a disadvantage to your competition. If you're in marketing and sales, you want to make sure you're on the bleeding edge of what's possible. I'll give you an example. At the last company, we started doing advertisements in the New York City subway. We were very early. Like, you'd get into the cars and like plaque through every wall of the car with our like ad. And it worked very well because it was relatively cheap because no one else was doing it. And new to customers, just historically you saw these one individual ads for like little local business. And we were just taking the entire train. So it worked amazingly well. But now the cost of one car is like 5x what it used to be. And people are used to seeing it. So they're more inoculated to it. It's not saying you don't do subway ads anymore, but the subway ads don't work as well. So in sales and marketing, it's kind of always the state of things. In order to be successful, you constantly have to be thinking about what's the next new thing. And so right now, this is the next new thing. And if they're not doing it, they're being left behind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For entrepreneurs and like early stage folks, very early stage success is driven by how fast you fail. People kind of don't understand what I mean at the beginning, but what I mean is like, you've got to be early stage great at running like little experiments, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. Entrepreneurs that fail are the ones that get so worried about whether it's going to work or not that it takes them a year to even run like one little test. Should I change the pricing or not? Should I send this email or not? Should I try this new customer or not? And if that takes you a year to stress and worry about and get out there and then find the answer, then maybe you didn't set up the experiment right and you don't have good data, you're going to be a very successful entrepreneur. I'm sorry to tell you. Like, the ones that are very successful are just coming in every day, no fear of failure, and are going and trying something new and then very quickly getting the feedback. Did that work or not? And making sure that if it's the founders that are doing it themselves, and if you've gotten bigger, then that feedback that somebody else is getting to the founders very quickly so that they know what's going on. That's how you can get yourself into a very interesting business very quickly. But you can't have fear of failure. Look, you should not be making the same mistake twice. So I'm not saying come in on one day and try something and fail, come in on Tuesday and try the same thing. No. But if you're constantly having these little experiments, you'll very quickly get to something interesting. The hardest part about being a founder in my mind is knowing when the failure should change your plan versus you should double down. So if you have this vision that you want to sell, catfish in, I don't know, Baltimore, and that's your business, and you go to 5 stores and they all say, no, I don't want catfish. You have to decide, was I wrong about selling in Baltimore? Was I wrong about selling catfish? Or do I have to go to another 5 stores because these are the wrong type of stores to sell to? So don't just take the feedback at its face value, but go and figure out which is the experiment you're going to run next and change either the city, the thing you're selling, or the type of customer you're selling to until you find the right fit.
Has there ever been a time in your entrepreneurial journey that you doubled down, as you say?
Yeah. When I was at Angie, one of the teams I ran started a lot of new businesses for the company. So I've probably taken 10 businesses from zero to a couple $1 million in revenue. And one of them that particularly we liked, we took it up to $100 million in revenue. So I've certainly seen this early stage stuff a lot. We'd have assumptions going in and we lay out our assumptions what we need the business to do to get to call it $100 million in revenue, because it was a scale we wanted to get to for new businesses. And it became clear that it wasn't going to get there quickly. And so rather than a low and slow death, we just kill them. An interesting one, we found a business where we were basically buying, building, and sort of putting together IKEA furniture for people and other flatback furniture. And it worked amazingly well, but we still shut it down because the mechanics of us doing the delivery were just too complicated. And we couldn't figure out how to scale it. So we sort of pivoted off of that into the last business that really worked, which was going to the big retailers and convincing them that instead of selling boxes of a product was Wayfair. So instead of Wayfair just selling you a table, sell the table with the installation. And so you would sell the table and there'd be an add-on. We did this also with Costco and Lowe's and all the other companies. So that was our sort of innovation, where instead of us handling the delivery and the installation, we just managed the installation. And that business took off very, very quickly. That was a case where we doubled down. We had huge teams at each of the retailers to point on Walmart to get out to all the stores faster to accelerate the deployment of this new idea. So the fascinating part is we put websites up of the IKEA installation and delivery, and people just wanted it. So by partnering with the retailers, we realized that, instead of people coming to Angie only looking for a service-led sale, it was a product-led sale. They went to Lowe's and they said, I want a fan. But then they go, shoot, I'm not really going to install that. I need to install it for me. And so as long as we were right there in that moment, we could sell the service.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm pretty sure we clicked that box for the kids swing set. Best money I've ever spent.
I told you to, by the way, because I was that guy who got home in that box and said, oh my God, this is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Took my kids about 4 weeks to see that place and to get up.
Yeah. And you're thinking about it that way. The reason why the retailers love it is a couple things. One, instead of a box, they're selling a finished product, which makes them happier. But more, when somebody goes into a store, they're more likely to buy that thing. Garage doors or lighting, plumbing, things that people are afraid of when they know that there's somebody who's going to install it. So it actually allowed them to sell more products and allowed us at Angie to sell more services and gave the customer this really novel experience. It's one of these rare examples where really a business is good for multiple stakeholders.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. What's your definition of entrepreneurial success?
With this business, we want it to be a standalone, really interesting new product that people can use. They sometimes call it a category defining product, or we want to define a category. And on the other side, we want employees to have a good financial outcome. So I think about that stuff a lot.
How do we support you?
B2C brands that are in these more considered industries and these services, we'd love to talk with them, especially the larger ones. Those are the ones we want to help on this transformation into a sort of more personalized way of doing sales. We're never beneath customer introductions. We're always happy to talk with customers.
Great. And where should they do that? Where's the number one place you like to hang out online, or you want to give an email?
Yeah, you can email me at hello@regal.io, or you can just go to regal.io and engage with the site directly.
Thanks so much.
Hey, it's Nicole, and that's the end of the interview. But stick around. This is the part where Matt and I break it all down and give you our favorite takeaways. Listen in.
Matt, we just got done talking with Alex, and wow, there was so much to unpack there. I'll begin.
Yes. What you got?
One of the first things, I have to call out any chance somebody lets me is he mentioned about experimenting. Experimenting in your business is going to lead to success. He said, fail faster, make these small experiments. And then what he said, I thought was really insightful, is make sure there's a feedback loop, essentially. Just make sure you're getting the feedback to you as the founder, as the entrepreneur, to the founder if it's not you, making sure that that information from that experiment, that data, whatever it is, gets back so you can decide if you're going to double down or how you're going to move forward. I think it's a really important lesson anytime I hear it.
I agree 100%. In fact, it made me think of my own life of times where I was willing to experiment. I was willing to fail faster, and how much more, I'll just say, positive it was, as opposed to other times in my life where, I didn't want to take that risk or I didn't want to do it. He even flat out said that journey, that entrepreneurship may not be for you. You might need to go get a different job or might have to go do something different because of that. So it was interesting hearing that reflection. I'll say it like that.
I like it. Next one for you. What
No,
you got?
definitely it was when he was referencing his relationship with his co-founder, he was talking about how it's the job of them to lower uncertainty in the business. Like the fact that those two work so well together. He referenced it as, CEO versus CTO, but they've known each other forever. They worked in Angie for a long time. They know so much about each other, and having that trust with somebody to know that you can lean on them to help further the business. And when I say further the business, I'm thinking about the fact that it's not just, hey, that sounding board, so to speak, for each other, but it's the idea that it actually has an impact where they are lowering uncertainty for their clients, their customers, they're lowering uncertainty within their own organization for their employees and their contractors, probably. It's all around. It's the ability to lower that uncertainty that you get a benefit by having that, what we call business partners, but he references as co-founder.
Right. And how it can look different ways. It doesn't have to be 50-50. Maybe it's
No.
70-30. That's about financial outcome. I thought that was really, really insightful. Okay,
Yep.
so the
What else
last
you
one
got?
that we talked a lot about that I would be remiss if we didn't mention it. Look, folks, no matter if you're a big, giant tech company that maybe you can't take advantage of this, what you can take advantage of is people still buy from people. That even big tech like this, they're trying to figure out how they put back the human element into their process, whether it is sales and they are building incremental revenue for those businesses. But you can do the same thing on paying attention to how do you put back the human element, that it's not just clicking a buy button. And he said, it's not mind-boggling, but it's really important in the case of the diabetic nurse, right? In that clinic, I picture, she doesn't have time to make sure everybody's level is just right. But with tech, she can be supported so that the right calls go out or the right message that goes out. My mom, own personal experience, she had a loop monitor put into her chest to monitor her heart because she had done the Holter monitor thing for a while. And this was years ago. We were shocked to learn that somebody wasn't constantly reading that ticker tape. That someone wasn't always paying attention to what was happening with my mom's situation. We were surprised to think that there wasn't something just automatically generated.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, here is an example on how tech is coming along solving that, but that there's still that human element that's coming alongside and taking care of their patients.
And he even kind of blew me away. So I was thinking about, well, that just makes sense. You need it in professional services. He goes, no, you need it across the board. Like he referenced, it's in retail too. It's the idea that it's across the board, that tech's trying to solve this all over. But yet now what we're starting to realize is there needs to be more. There has to be something. As you said, people buy from who? People at the end of the day. So again, it's a people-y kind of thing, as you would say.
It is. And 60% of the sales are usually waiting for you in the follow-up. And I think it's just an excellent reminder that they're there. And I love how they're solving it. So you still take something from that, friends, even if you can't grab these big giants to help you out just yet. So tell us what you have to say about people buying from people in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Give a screenshot if you made it this far into the episode. And if you were listening,
Keep listening.
you've been listening to the Serial Entrepreneur Show, produced by the team here at Smart Cookie Media.